Hello, welcome to the Marketing 101 for Small Business Owners podcast. I'm your host, Philippa Channer. I'm a content marketing strategist here in Montgomery County, Maryland, and I'm so glad you guys are here with us today. For the month of July, I've been bringing on some special guests into my realm because I know you guys are tired of hearing me say the same things over and over again, so I want to bring in somebody else that has made smarter than me and has more better advice for you. So Matt Banker is here to join us. Matt, can you please introduce yourself? Let us know a little bit about yourself, your company, and what brought you here today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on the show. My name is Matt Banker. I have a company called Banker Creative, and we don't work with banks. We work with everyone. It's my last name. Um, and I really built my business on web design, but specifically the thing that we do a lot of, and I think is really the differentiator, is that we think of ourselves as a words first web design company. So we really focus on making sure we have the messaging right for a website. And what I've noticed is a lot of folks, when they go through a website design project, they work with a freelancer or an agency, and they say, hey, just give us the content and we'll design a beautiful website for you. And then these small business owners, they go back and they realize they have no idea what to write for their website, or what the headline should be, or what's effective. And so a big part of what we do is really help folks craft their messaging. We're big believers in clarity. We're big believers in positioning the customer as the hero and positioning the company as the guide. We use the story brand framework for the listeners that are familiar with that. And we've just seen it to be a really effective way to go about web design. So that's where most of our focus is. We do some ongoing marketing services for other businesses as well. I do a lot of work with accounting firms, which they're not banks, but it's still kind of money related. So maybe there's a good fit, with my last name. And yeah, I guess that's the important stuff about me.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And I know today we're going to talk about different ways that small business owners can market themselves that they may not have thought of before. So I'm really interested in this topic because I'm always trying to find creative ways for people to get their name out there. So let's
Mhm.
jump right in.
Yeah, well, the challenge with any small business owner is everything marketing. The way I say marketing is expensive, but you can pay in time or you can pay in money. And so most of when you're starting out, you're it, right? You're the marketer for your entire company. It doesn't make sense usually to hire an agency like mine right at the beginning. We all hope you get there. I like to tell some of my super small clients, like, hey, let me point you in the direction, and then I hope you come back and you can pay me a whole bunch of money later to do this work for you. But you have to figure out what are the effective ways for you as a business owner to spend your time, because that's the resource that you generally have. And what I see in a lot of cases is owners who engage, we like to call it random acts of marketing. They see something and, oh, so and so's doing something on Instagram. I should be on Instagram. And then they see somebody else, oh, I got to have a TikTok channel now, or I need to be writing blogs every week. And so um, I just have a lot of empathy for those business owners. I've been there myself. You don't have unlimited time, and you have to do all this marketing. And so, finding creative ways to put yourself out into the marketplace is a really key part of that. I don't know that those aren't like the specific tactics yet. We'll get into that in a second. But that's kind of the framing that I like to take when it comes to marketing, just in general, for small business owners.
I like to call it the shiny object syndrome. Like, ooh, they see something shiny over here, something over here. Let's do this, and I'm like, wait a minute, what does that
Mm.
line up with what we're trying to accomplish? What does it mean? And do you really understand the back end of what you're seeing? You see
Hmm.
the end results, but there's a lot of work in the back end. Do we really want to do this? Is that what you need right now?
Yeah.
I feel you.
You know, I think one thing that I think people really, in a lot of ways, overweight in when they think about their marketing is they think that they need to be doing what everybody else is doing. And sometimes people are doing that because it's the best practice, and sometimes people are doing whatever it is because they're also just copying everyone else. And what you end up with is kind of a crowded marketplace, right? And so if you're trying to invest in SEO for your business, but so are all the other folks in your same industry. It might be really hard to break in through that space. And so what I like to do is really try to think about what are some opportunities that you could have as a small business where there's a little bit less competition. You can get a little bit more bang for your buck. And this kind of comes back to you have to have a clear idea of what you're doing. I think one of the bigger mistakes people make is trying to do too many things, and so they can't
Mhm.
do anything really well. And so I have a couple of things that I really like to point out as opportunities for small businesses.
Yeah.
So one of the first ones, underrated, is in-person networking events.
Mhm.
And so if you're in a crowded space, one of the best things you can do early on is try to find other owners who either have overlapping businesses or other, where you can build kind of a referral network. Maybe it's a
Yes.
BNI group, or maybe it's a chamber of commerce or something. I really found a lot of success early on with my website business working with accountants. And well, it turns out that accountants, the ones that I found, were also working with a lot of business owners. And so they knew the other people that I wanted to serve. And so thinking
Yes.
about your marketing in a narrow or more targeted way is, identify a type of business or that you could work with that has the capacity or the ability to introduce you to some other customers that could be in that could be a good fit for you as well.
Yeah. I also got recent advice too is in addition to attending the network events and building those collaborations with like-minded industries, is also, if you find a niche, and let's say, I want to market to all the dentists. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
the dentist marketing expert out there.
Mm-hmm.
I should find, if there's a conference that all the dentists go to,
Yes.
I should go there, get a ticket. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
anything about dentistry, but I'm going to sit there and I'm shake
Mm-hmm.
hands with all the people that are my potential clients. That way, in that room, I am the odd person out and get some
Yeah.
attention. Yeah.
Boy, having a niche. Now I know this doesn't work for every single industry or product line or whatever, but having a niche is such a great way to amplify your marketing networks, and it's counterintuitive. Most people think, well, if I narrow who I'm going to sell to a really a tighter target market, the worry is like I'm excluding all these people that I could do business with, when in reality the opposite is true, because there's plenty of people out there, and what
Yeah.
you need is to break through, and it's so much easier to do that in a smaller niche. And so having that focus is it's like it's the number one hack for amplifying all of the marketing efforts that you do, is to have that narrow niche.
Yeah.
Now I want to go back just to the in-person marketing thing. A big mistake that a lot of people do is when they go to a networking event or they start meeting people in person, and you meet someone and they say, oh, what do you do? The mistake that they make is they tell them what they do. And here's the thing: people don't remember you for the thing that you do, they remember you for the problem that you solve. And so, what you always want to do is when you're talking to someone, really like put into their mind what is the problem that you solve, so that when they meet someone who has that same problem, or maybe it's them, they think of you. And so, the example I give is for myself. If I meet a business owner and they say, oh, hi, Matt, what do you do? And I say, oh, I build websites for small businesses. What goes through their mind is, I have a website. I don't need Matt's services. I already
Yeah.
have that, right? But if I say, it's just a slight switch, but if I say, well, every business has a website, but most business owners aren't actually getting any business or revenue from their website. It's just an expense. It's not actually helping them build their business. And so I help businesses get a website that actually brings in leads. Well, now this person is thinking, it's not that he builds websites, it's that he makes websites do the work, bring in the leads. That's the problem that I solve. Whether he needs that, or like he might say, oh, I have a website, but it doesn't bring in any leads. Now I still will stick in his mind as someone that he should consider. And you can do that with any business. There's a simple frame. If you can train yourself to always lead with the problem first, then the solution, and then talk about the results, just really short, we're talking 2, maybe 3 sentences, My version of that is, my name's Matt. I found that a lot of businesses have a website, but they don't actually get leads from the website. So that's why we take a words first approach and make sure we get the messaging right, so that when people get to your website, they click on that schedule a call button, so that you get more revenue, and your website isn't an expense, but it's actually like growing
Working.
your business.
Yes.
You can do
Yeah.
that for your own business too, and train yourself to always start with the problem when you're at those networking events. Don't tell them what you do. Tell them the problem that you solve. That's
Yeah.
the most important piece.
I feel like I'm hearing Donald Miller somewhere behind me saying,
Yeah, well, that's his whole thing. I'm a story brand guide,
"Yep,
and I've built my business off of that. I love what Don is teaching, or I think he's been so helpful through the years, and it's a great tool that we use with all of our clients. So if you've never read Building a Story Brand, or Marketing Made Simple is another one.
yeah,
Those are two great books that I
yeah."
think any small business owner should be reading, to get like a good foundational understanding of how marketing works and messaging and all of that.
Yeah, I second that notion. All right, so some other ways that businesses can really get out there, get noticed, hopefully without breaking the bank, that are different creative ideas.
hmm Well, let's go back to the niche thing.
Yeah.
Certain niches, different groups of people hang out in different places, right? And so
Yep.
this kind of goes back to this idea that marketing is expensive, time or money. If you don't
Yep.
have much time, you need to spend most of your time in one or two places and not spread yourself too thin. And so you want to find out where your target market is. And so for a lot of small business owners, organic social media is a good place to start. Some industries are all over LinkedIn, right?
Mhm.
Professional industries, people who are, I mean, in
B2B.
marketing, accountants, all of those sorts of kind of white collar businesses. They're on LinkedIn. It's a great place to go and be active if you're kind of in that B2B space. But if you serve construction companies, or if you serve, I mean, even dentists, there's not many dentists on LinkedIn, because dentists don't change jobs all that often. And that's one of the main reasons that
Yeah.
people start and get active on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You may need to spend some time on Facebook. And if you're going to spend some time on Facebook, you really need to learn to understand groups, right? And so I think for there's a couple things happening. One, if you can go and find yourself a group where you can be a helpful resource, I don't think you should really be selling in this space, but just
Yeah.
answering questions and being able to be a resource. And then every once in a while, you may be able to mention you offer some sort of service or product or something, but get active in a community on Facebook, where people are already hanging out, that are your target market. And again, the narrower your niche, the more easily you'll be able to find that Facebook group. And the other piece of that is, you could start your own group, and the Facebook algorithm really prioritizes group content over almost anything else. And so if someone
Nice.
is in your
Okay.
target market and they're in your group, anytime you post to Facebook, it's going to show up in their feed. Whereas if you post it to your page or even to your personal profile, it's not as easy to show up. So groups have kind of a special advantage right now on Facebook.
So I have a question about the groups. Would you recommend a business show up in a group as because I know there's some ways where a
Mm.
page can join a group versus an individual join a group. Is there a preference over that in terms of results and effectiveness?
When it comes to social media in general, this is a hard decision sometimes for business owners. It's better to interact as yourself than as your company. People want to connect to a person more than they want to connect with a business. Now, if you are personally using Facebook as a social network for your friends and family, maybe you don't want everything to be about business, and
Yeah.
so that can be a bit of a complication. I've chosen some platforms where I'm Matt Banker, friend and family member, and then other platforms where I'm Matt Banker, owner of Banker Creative.
Yeah.
That's and so you kind of decide which platforms are going to be personal and which ones are going to be business. But I think in general, I would recommend as much as possible showing up as an individual. And again, social media, you need to start by building rapport and connection with people before you jump into selling. Nobody likes those cold DMs that you get on LinkedIn of like,
Yeah.
hey, can I just get 15 minutes of your time? No, don't do that. It's just pushing people away.
Yep. Agreed. Totally agreed. I know. I like between for me, I prefer LinkedIn. That's my go-to platform.
Hmm.
But I totally get the Facebook group space and utilizing that, especially when you're I a lot of my clients and a lot of the people I would network with are B2B, but there are definitely
Hmm.
big advantages for B2C people on Facebook
Yeah.
groups for sure.
There's also they're a little harder to find and get into, but more and more people are turning to private Slack channels or like Discord servers and things like that, where they develop their own little professional communities. I've seen some statistics about how um, this is somewhat some of this has been pushed forward through our experience through the pandemic, but people are more connected to their peers than ever before. And so before the pandemic, I think it was, people were most likely to be connected with maybe five other people that shared their job title, and now they're connected through a community of some sort with maybe 100 people who share the same job title. And so those
Oh, wow.
internal networks of people. So if you can get in good with one of your ideal customer and they're a part of a group, ask them, if it would be helpful for you to come and share with their group, or try to find a way to get a toehold into some of these places that as a business you might not be able to find on your own or get access to. So
Good,
mind the experience of your current customers to figure that kind of stuff out.
good point. Good point. Awesome. All right. So, are there more different ways that we can start getting out there and getting our name known?
Yeah, I'll just make a recommendation. A lot of folks, I know you're kind of in the content space. A lot of
Yeah.
folks struggle to figure out how to be consistent and what to either write or publish on social media. And I think for a small business, it's so important to be able to utilize like frameworks and checklists, so that when you sit down to write, you're not trying to figure out what you should write about. You're just focusing on what you need to write, about that topic. And so you kind of predetermine some of the content that you're going to cover. And there's two frameworks that I really love. So one, there's a book called They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. And it's really simple. Basically, you figure out what are the questions that your customers are asking, and then you answer them. And a lot of those questions are things you can just put yourself in your own research mode, right? If you go and you're looking for a product, you're going to wonder, how much does this cost? How does it compare with the competition? Is this best in class, or is this the cheaper alternative? And what are some of the advantages and disadvantages? And so that book gives you a great list of blog articles that you can write or videos that you can create for your business based around kind of five main types of questions that people tend to have about their business. So They Ask You Answer is a great framework for content. Sometimes people call it TAYA for short, TAYA. They Ask You Answer. So if you see that acronym around, that's what they're talking about.
Okay.
And then the other framework that I really love is a friend of mine, Annie Schiffman, developed a social media framework called the Pager method. So it's an acronym, or is that the right acronym? PAGER. And it stands for five different types of content that you need to be publishing. And so P is for promotional materials, A is for articles, G is for general content. I usually think of that as like kind of thought leadership, or polls, or the stuff that you want to post kind of organically, not in an article format, but on social media. And
Yep.
then E is engagement content. That's like the fun stuff. It could be birthday announcements. It could be surveys. It could be questions that you ask your audience. And a lot of times it's not as focused on your business, because the goal is to get more people to engage with the content, because if they click that like button on something non-business related, they're also more likely to see your business content later down the road. And so we kind of mix it up. And then the R at the end is just for random. And what that does is it gives you 5 days of content. And so you kind of you fill up these different buckets, and every day, every Monday I'm going to post something promotional, and every Tuesday it's going to be an article. And so you kind of get this method figured out, so every time you sit down to the computer, you don't have to think about it. Or if you use a scheduler, you can schedule out, a whole week in advance on one day, but you know exactly what kind of content you're going to put on each of these days. So the pager framework, that's kind of the other one that I really love for social
Yeah.
media. And I know for me, having those executable checklists is just a huge game changer in terms of my ability to actually do it, right?
Yeah. Yep. I'm a huge fan of checklist. I have not a lot. I have one main system I use. I love ClickUp. It's very similar to
Mm-hmm.
Asana. I absolutely love ClickUp, and everything of my life is there. Um, I always have it open, and yeah, I would be lost without my little checklist of what to do each time. I was like, okay, I'll do this, and this takes 5 steps. There they are. Perfect. And I also am a huge fan and an encourager of batching content. As a
Mm-hmm.
small business owners, we mentioned, we're wearing the marketing hat, but we're also wearing the bookkeeper hat and the,
Yeah.
accountant hat and the everything hat. And so the more we can simplify one part of our business, the easier others will be. And I'm like, batch content, like you're saying,
Yeah.
use this schedule tool, schedule content out. Like I'm encouraging people to do it 3 months in advance
Mm-hmm.
and get it done with. That way you don't have to think about it for another 3 months.
Yeah, there's a tool that we've been using. There's a lot of great tools out there, but one that I've been pretty excited about, specifically with this pager method that we use, is there's a social media scheduler called Meet Edgar, and what it
Mhm.
is. I don't know if you've experienced it much, but you fill up these buckets basically of your different content types, and then it drips them out, on those dates. But you don't have to think about specifically what's going to go out when, if you write evergreen content. And then the nice thing is, if you forget to add more content, it just goes back to the beginning and it starts posting stuff again, which in a lot of cases, especially for business content, is fine.
Yeah,
It's, if you could do it every day and be completely unique, that would be great. But that consistency piece is so important. And so
yeah,
having these tools that allow you to be consistent when you get busy, especially if you're a one person marketer, is so important.
yeah. I've been, thankfully, I've gotten a system down where I have a new podcast each week. So I'll have a few vacations here and there,
Hmm.
but I've gotten down to where I don't have to that's not a problem anymore. But
Hmm.
I am completely fine with, if there's a month where I'm like, I just want to take this month off, I'm going to take the top 5 podcasts I've already done and just re-air them again, because there is value in resharing content. Your audience today is not the same audience from 3 months ago. There's a lot of
Yeah.
content that you put out 3 months ago that these people didn't go back and
Yep.
read. Nobody goes back and read your old stuff. So it's going to
Yeah.
be new to them.
You can almost just have, 5 or 6 topics that you talk about, and just you have variations of that over and over again, and you feel like you're saying the same thing, but your audience, it's a new audience, or they're hearing it in a different way, or maybe they didn't see the post the first time around, and for whatever reason this one does. And so don't be afraid to reuse that content. You don't have to be original. Well, you have to be yourself. This is, I
Yes.
think that's a little different though. You have to be yourself, but you can be yourself again and again and again, in
Yep.
some of the same categories. And it also helps you refine your own messaging and how you go to the market, and it helps people connect. Repetition is really important in marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it. And I know you mentioned one thing here: marketing is a marathon, not a sprint. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's not a light switch, right? You can't just flip the marketing on. And so the best time to start your marketing was like 6 months ago. The
Yep.
second best time is today. And the idea is you want to be building your reputation, your influence, and your audience before you need it. Uh, I was reading about a guy the other day who he was actually still working within a company, and he used that Facebook group method where he was an accountant, and he decided he wanted to work with real estate agents. So he just found a group of real estate agents, and he went there every day for 6 months to answer questions for free. He'd answer 2 questions a week, just as a resource. And then when he was ready to go out on his own, he had already invested all of that time into the group, and he had built trust and credibility. and wasn't trying to sell anything through it, but everybody knew him, they liked him, and they trusted him. And so when he went out on his own, he didn't have to go and sell himself. He could just say, "Hey, I'm offering the service now," and people were ready to book calls with him. And so putting in that time, uh, I mean, it's tough. There are times when you're just like, I need business tomorrow, right? And the reality is, that's probably sales. But if you want marketing, you want to build this engine that is gonna grow your influence, so you get more of these inbound leads consistently. That's gonna take time, and so you got to invest the time early on, and have that patience to know. I know it's not gonna yield results right away, but down the road, that's what we're moving towards. And so it's the long game. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah, I absolutely love. I agree. I think a lot of times people have the hope and the expectation, the desire for like quick fixes. They hire a
Mhm.
marketing person, they're expecting leads to come in a few days, and I'm like, that's not how it works. It's going to take some
Mhm.
time to build up and either correct some of the mistakes you've made, or
Yeah,
start things that you haven't started yet, and it's going to take time. So,
yeah.
all right.
Well, one of the last things that I just want to cover that I think is really helpful to think about as a business owner is, when it comes to marketing, there are three things that you have to invest in. And
Mm,
marketing is most expensive if you don't have all three of these, but you just have two. And this kind of goes back to this idea: you can pay with time or money. And so when I say expensive, it's not just dollars, but it's going to take a lot of your time. So the three things are: you have to pay for strategy, you have to pay for labor, you have to pay for distribution. And so strategy is, what are we doing and why? And
yeah,
the two ways: you can either work with a strategist, a marketing expert who can help tell you this is what you should do and why, or you can learn. You can read books, you can listen to podcasts, you can figure it out. But you have to spend time thinking through, what am I trying to do? What am I going to do, and what am I not going to do, so that I have the time to devote in the right places. You have to have that strategy piece in place. And then you need labor, which is someone's got to write things or design things or set it up or manage the campaign and all of that. And again, you could partner with someone outside, or you can learn how to do it yourself. And then the final one is distribution. You can go the organic route where you post every day. That's more of the time version. Or you can pay, right? You can pay Google or Facebook or whatever, whoever you want to get those ads in front of people. But this big mistake that I see people making is where they don't do the strategy piece. And so then they just start getting really active. And it goes back to this random acts of marketing. They're
yeah,
doing all this stuff, but they're just spinning their wheels, and it's not going anywhere because the strategy isn't good, or it's not right fit for their business or for them personally.
yeah,
And that's really discouraging because like I said, it's expensive. It takes a lot of time. And then, I've seen other folks who, there are some great podcasts out there in the world that nobody's ever heard because they never get around to doing any work to distribute it, right? So they've got a great strategy, like they put in the time to create a great product, and then it didn't get out for people to see because they missed that distribution thing. And so that's another way where marketing can feel really expensive. And so if you're just going to like look at your own marketing right now and say, what can I do to improve things, to fix things, I'd say think of those three categories and figure out, am I hitting my marks on all three of these: strategy, labor, or creation, I guess is another way to put it, and
yeah.
distribution.
Okay, perfect. I like that. I like those three components. That makes it really simple, because I know
Mm-hmm.
marketing, there's so many layers to marketing and it can get overwhelming, but that breaks it down to three simple little checklists. Where's my weak spot? What can I do to fix it? I like that.
Yeah.
All right, awesome, Matt. I really appreciate you coming today, bringing the wisdom and the knowledge to everybody. Where can people follow you and get to know you more, follow your content, and maybe even work with you?
Yeah. Well, I'm active on LinkedIn, so you can find me, Matt Banker, on LinkedIn. And my company is Banker Creative. Like I said, we do websites and messaging and all that. And so if you have a business, here's what I'd say: if you have a complicated, complex business, you're not sure how to explain it to people, then you should work with a story brand guide like myself to help you clarify that messaging. Those are kind of our ideal customers, and yeah, we love to work with all kinds of folks though. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out.
All right, awesome. Appreciate it. And again, thank you for your time. This will air in July 2023, so I will be sure to check it out, guys. And this, depending on when this airs, we'll have either 1 or 2 more episodes right behind us with more interviews. Otherwise, we'll follow up again in the month of August with another small little mini series of marketing content for you. So thanks, guys, for listening. Make sure that if you haven't subscribed wherever you're listening, that you do so today so you don't miss any future episodes. And thank you again, Matt, for being here.
Yeah, you should definitely like and subscribe to this show. Go and write a review. That helps us podcasters a lot. Thanks for having me. This has been great.
You're very welcome. I didn't pay him to say that.